You're wise, experienced, and have lived long enough to know what truly matters. Yet, even the most confident and self-assured older women can unknowingly slip into habits that slowly erode a man's respect. These habits, though often rooted in love and good intentions, can gradually weaken the respect that forms the bedrock of healthy, thriving relationships. The question then becomes, how do we nurture our natural inclinations toward care and connection while preserving the dignity and respect that make relationships truly fulfilling? I'm Vernon, and today, I'm going to share with you 5 specific habits that, while often coming from a place of genuine care, can unintentionally diminish the respect you receive in relationships. Pay close attention to habit number 4. It's one that many accomplished women struggle with, as it challenges everything they've been taught about relationships. When respect starts to fade, even the most loving relationships can falter. This is especially important for women in their later years, who may be entering new relationships or seeking to revitalize long-standing ones. Take a moment to reflect. Do you feel like there's an imbalance or a sense of disrespect in your current romantic relationship? Drop a comment below and let me know if you've been facing this challenge. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on more insightful videos like this one. Let's dive into habit number 1, which is often the most overlooked but the most impactful. Habit number 1, the weight of constant criticism. In some cases, the habits we develop in our professional lives unconsciously spill over into our personal relationships. My friend Helen, a retired executive with decades of experience managing teams, found herself applying the same critical eye to her romantic relationships that had served her well in business. She would point out when David, her husband, forgot to close cabinet doors, mention that his driving could be more efficient, or suggest better ways he could handle situations with his adult children. What Helen didn't realize was that her well-intentioned feedback, delivered consistently over months, was creating an environment where David felt he could never meet her standards. David explained he started to feel like he was being managed rather than loved. Dr. Gottman's studies show that criticism attacking someone's character rather than addressing specific behaviors creates defensiveness and emotional withdrawal in partners. The challenge for accomplished women like Helen is that the skills that made them successful professionally can become relationship liabilities. The attention to detail, high standards, and improvement mindset that served them well in their careers can feel overwhelming and disrespectful when applied to personal relationships. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we should focus on what we can control our responses rather than trying to control others' behaviors. A practical approach is to shift from criticism to positive reinforcement. Rather than pointing out what your partner does wrong, focus on what they do well. For example, if you find yourself about to comment on something they could improve, try to redirect your attention to something positive they've done. It could be as simple as saying, "I really appreciate how you took care of that situation today." Instead of offering feedback every time something doesn't meet your standards, ask yourself if it's worth mentioning. Letting go of small imperfections in long-term relationships can create more love and connection. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give others is the space to be imperfect without constant correction. By focusing on understanding and embracing each other's growth, we set the stage for deeper, more fulfilling connections. This naturally leads us to the next essential habit. Habit number 2, losing yourself in others' needs. Aristotle once said, "Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom." Yet, one of the most common ways mature women unintentionally lose respect in relationships is by gradually abandoning their own needs, desires, and identity in service of others. Paradoxically, this habit often reduces love and respect. Research from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology shows that couples are more attracted to each other and report higher satisfaction when both maintain their own identities and interests. When partners stop losing themselves in each other's needs, they foster mutual respect and deeper connection. This pattern is especially common among women who spent decades as primary caregivers, whether to children or aging parents. The habit of prioritizing others' needs becomes so ingrained that it often continues even when the caregiving phase has ended. Over time, they might find themselves in relationships where they no longer recognize their own wants or needs, focusing solely on the other person. When we lose touch with our own desires, we become like empty vessels trying to fill others. This imbalance creates frustration, often leading to resentment that quietly chips away at a relationship. The solution isn't selfishness, but rather a practice I call conscious self-preservation, maintaining awareness of your own needs, passions, and boundaries while still being generous and nurturing in your relationships. This might involve continuing hobbies you love even if your partner doesn't share the same interest, clearly expressing your preferences, or investing in friendships that are uniquely yours. Take some time this week to reconnect with parts of yourself that may have taken a back seat. What activities or passions did you once enjoy but have since neglected? What thoughts or opinions have you kept to yourself? Keep in mind, respect often flows toward those who respect themselves enough to stay true to their authentic identity, and give this video a like to show your commitment to reclaiming your own space and authenticity. Habit number 3. The trap of emotional manipulation. Emotions are a powerful tool in relationships. They can connect us, strengthen bonds, and foster deep understanding. However, when emotions are used to manipulate or control, they can have the opposite effect, undermining trust and respect. The challenge lies in knowing when our emotional expressions are healthy and when they've crossed a line into manipulation. My ex-wife had a pattern of using emotional distress to influence my behavior. When I wanted to spend time with my adult children without her, she would become visibly upset and mention how lonely she felt. When I planned activities she didn't enjoy, she would develop headaches or become withdrawn until I changed my plans. But what she didn't realize was that her emotional responses had become a form of control that gradually eroded my respect for her autonomy and my own. Psychology research in relationships identifies emotional manipulation as one of the most damaging patterns for long-term respect. Dr. Susan Forward's work on emotional blackmail shows that using guilt, fear, or obligation to control others' behavior creates resentment and emotional distance, even when the manipulation is unconscious. The challenge is that the line between expressing genuine emotions and using emotions manipulatively can be subtle. The key difference lies in intention and pattern. Are you sharing feelings to communicate and connect, or to change someone's behavior? This habit often develops from a lifetime of having emotions dismissed or minimized. Women who learned early that their direct requests were ignored might unconsciously turn to emotional appeals as a way to be heard. However, what once might have been necessary for survival can become relationship poison in mature partnerships. Practice expressing your needs directly, rather than hoping emotional distress will convey your message. Instead of becoming withdrawn when disappointed, try saying, "I'm disappointed we can't spend this time together, and I'd like to find another opportunity soon." This honesty preserves both your dignity and the other person's autonomy. Habit number 4. Boundary dissolution and its consequences. For many accomplished women, the hardest truth to accept is that a lack of boundaries, being too available, too accommodating, and sacrificing your own space and standards often undermines the very respect and closeness we're trying to foster in our relationships. The ancient Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "Confine yourself to the present." This idea reflects the essence of boundaries, staying grounded in your own needs and limits. Instead of constantly giving in to the demands and expectations of others, Dr. Henry Cloud's research shows that people who establish clear personal limits are often viewed as more confident, self-respecting, and ultimately more attractive as partners. This is especially important for women who have spent years putting the needs of others first. For instance, Oprah Winfrey, in her later years, has openly shared how important it became for her to set clear boundaries as she entered a new phase of her life. As someone who has always been the caretaker and leader in many spheres, Oprah realized that in order to protect her energy and well-being, she had to learn to say no more often, whether it was to family or business requests. This shift was essential for her mental peace and continued success. The truth is, when we disregard our own boundaries, we not only erode our own sense of self, but also teach others that we don't value ourselves enough to protect our well-being. Women who have spent years as caregivers often feel guilty when setting boundaries, fearing they may seem selfish. However, boundaries aren't about building walls, they're gates we control. Deciding when and how to share our time, energy, and attention. Boundaries show up in many forms. Saying no to unnecessary calls, setting limits on unplanned visits, or simply asking for time to consider requests before giving an answer. When we set and maintain healthy boundaries, we teach others how to treat us with respect. As we've seen through patterns of criticism, self-abandonment, and emotional manipulation, failing to establish boundaries can be the final step in teaching others that our needs don't matter. In doing so, we invite the very disrespect we are trying to avoid. What boundaries have you been neglecting in your relationships? Are there areas where you've been too accommodating? Leave a comment below and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear about your experiences. Now, let's move on to the next important habit to avoid, one that can often be harder to recognize but just as damaging. Habit number 5. The burden of excessive neediness. One of the most insidious habits that can erode respect and emotional connection in relationships is excessive neediness. While it's natural to desire love, attention, and validation, when these needs become overwhelming or constant, they can create a burden for the other person. In these moments, it can feel comforting to want constant reassurance or validation from your partner. However, this habit can shift the dynamics of the relationship and make the other person feel more like a caretaker than an equal partner. A study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships shows that a lack of emotional autonomy in a relationship can lead to dissatisfaction and emotional burnout. Partners who are consistently required to provide constant emotional care often feel overwhelmed and, over time, may begin to emotionally withdraw. I've seen this pattern firsthand with my daughter, Emma. In her early 30s, my daughter Emma was in a relationship with Jake, who, despite being loving and devoted, was overwhelmed by her constant need for reassurance. Emma would often seek his approval for decisions and feel anxious without immediate validation from him. At first, Jake patiently supported her, but over time, the emotional burden began to drain him, and he grew distant. This only heightened Emma's insecurities. Eventually, they had an honest conversation, and Emma realized how her emotional dependency was affecting their relationship. This neediness can manifest in many ways: constant texting or calling for reassurance, an inability to make decisions without approval, or becoming overly dependent on your partner to fulfill your emotional and social needs. While it's natural to seek support, when this dependency becomes excessive, it may create a power imbalance and diminish the mutual respect necessary for a healthy relationship. The solution to this habit lies in what I call emotional self-sufficiency. It's important to maintain your emotional independence and find ways to nurture your own emotional well-being outside of the blame relationship. Engage in activities that build your self-esteem, whether that's a hobby, pursuing personal goals, or strengthening relationships with friends. By doing so, You not only relieve your partner from the constant emotional weight, but you also allow for a more balanced and healthy dynamic, where both partners can thrive individually and together. Remember, the best relationships are built on mutual support and respect, where both partners can feel secure in their independence, while also supporting each other's growth. Start small. Focus on building your own sense of emotional stability and self-worth, so you can contribute equally to the relationship without leaning too heavily on your partner for validation. Conclusion. We reflected on these 5 habits that can gradually erode respect in relationships: constant criticism, self-abandonment, emotional manipulation, boundary dissolution, excessive neediness. These habits, while often rooted in love, fear, or past conditioning, can mask our authentic selves and diminish the respect we both give and receive in relationships. The wisdom lies not in becoming harder or less caring, but in learning to express our natural warmth and generosity from a place of strength rather than insecurity. What I hope you take from our time together today is not self-criticism about past patterns, but empowerment about future choices. Every interaction offers an opportunity to demonstrate your worth through your actions, boundaries, and standards. You have accumulated decades of wisdom about what truly matters in relationships. Now is the time to apply that wisdom courageously. I offer 3 practices for transforming these patterns. First, practice conscious choice awareness. Pause and ask yourself, am I acting from love or from fear? This simple check can prevent many respect-diminishing behaviors. Second, embrace dignified vulnerability. Share your authentic feelings without manipulation, maintaining intimacy and respect. Lastly, cultivate graceful boundaries. Learn to say no kindly, uphold your standards flexibly, and love without losing yourself. If you found these insights valuable, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new lesson. Share your experiences in the comments below, and feel free to send this video to friends or family who could benefit from it. Together, let's create relationships built on wisdom, respect, and strength. Thank you for joining me today. I believe deeply that by understanding and transforming these patterns, you can create relationships that honor both your generous heart and your inherent dignity.